A classic toxic protein is Botox, which is a poison, correct? And
Oh,
it's now
yes.
used for migraine headaches and in different ways to control tremors. How can something so bad be so good?
Well, you have to understand the mechanism of Botox, which is that it goes to nerve terminals. And so if you can control it, how Botox works, if you can control the basic toxicity and make it work locally, I think that the key here is that Botox has to work locally, which is why the cosmetologist takes a syringe and puts it into different areas in your face. Uh, I've never had it done, but I understand it works marvelously for getting rid of all those wrinkles. Um, and that of course was the major use for a lot. That's what people know Botox for in a lot of
Yes,
it's now Botox is the toxin that's produced if food spoils. So actually
yes.
the name botulinus comes from the Latin word for sausage. So, and that was the original source of botulinus poisoning. And botulinus poisoning is all over the literature, actually, if you look at it. So it's why you shouldn't eat food from a can that's swollen, because we now have remarkable canning facilities. As I point out also in the book, it's kind of hard to kill yourself with botulinus toxin nowadays because we have such great control of it. That's rather facetious, of course. One of the factors of Clostridium botulinus, so the bacteria that produces the toxin originally, is that it makes spores. And the spores can exist for hundreds of years in the soil, as we know from other examples. So there's a disease in people who shear sheep that actually is due to botulinus toxin, where you get horrible looking black scars on great black scores on your arms. That's actually much less toxic than consuming the toxin. So when you eat anything that's contaminated with these spores, or when you feed a baby, for example, raw honey, which you shouldn't do, it they get the toxin and it can penetrate the intestine and then go to your nervous system. And that's
Wow.
right. I think maybe the only current example that may be more painful than the death from botulinus toxin is tetanus toxin. It's
Mhm.
very interesting because we can take the toxin, so the detoxified extracellular proteins of tetanus, of the tetanus bacteria, and use it as a vaccine. And
Yes, we do.
the son, which the son of oh, what's his name? The president in it just before Calvin Coolidge. So Calvin
Yes.
Coolidge's son died of tetanus. And tetanus is an incredibly horrible disease. If you read the description of that disease back in the time, so when it was very common. So in the 1920s and the 1930s, we don't realize how common some of these microbial diseases were. For example, pertussis, which can
Yes.
choke a child to death. And uh, children died of all kinds of strange diseases, strange.
Well, it's interesting because regarding tetanus, all of us, even as adults, we're used to the childhood immunizations, the MMR and the uh, uh, polio vaccines and
DTaP,
all that. But
DTaP, yeah.
the right DTaP. But it's interesting because even as adults, every 10 years, we're supposed to get a tetanus shot because of the
Very good
protective
idea.
nature
You
of
do
the
not want to get
detox.
tetanus. Let me put it that way. And of course, again,
Absolutely.
tetanus is produced by a microorganism that sporulates, so it can live in the soil. So
Yes.
there isn't any way really to avoid getting a tetanus
Exposed to it, right?
toxin, getting exposed to it. So it really is important to have immunity. So uh,
Absolutely. This is Dr. David D. Schein. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.